Good evening, I'm Dennis Ward. Welcome to APTN National News. First Nations leaders, members and advocates gathered in Ottawa today to show their opposition to Bill C-5, the federal government's bill to enact interprovincial free trade and labor mobility, as well as fast-track resource projects in the national interest. Annette Francis starts us off tonight.
Hundreds came to the lawn of Parliament. They're here to call on the government to kill Bill C-5. Grand Chief Alvin Fiddler wasted no words in his message to Prime Minister Mark Carney.
That if you pass this bill, Bill C-5, that it will be a long, hot summer. Because we will not sit idly by and watch any government, whether it's Ontario or Canada, to come into our territory and take whatever or whenever they want it, because it is ours.
Bill C-5 is currently being pushed through Parliament with very little consultation with First Nations. Last week, Prime Minister Carney said Parliament would sit until the bill is passed. It would allow the federal government to fast-track major infrastructure projects deemed in the national interest. One way is by reducing the requirements for environmental assessments. That's why 19-year-old Jessica George made the 6-hour trek from Oneida First Nation.
I think it's important to protect our land and our waters because that's one of the most crucial parts of our culture is to protect our lands and the water.
NDP MP Saul Mamiko also came in a show of support. He said First Nations need to be a part of any discussion when it affects treaty rights, land rights, and the people that live on the lands. He said communities will rise up against Ontario's Bill 5 and the proposed federal bill.
And I think, you will see different direct actions from different areas. And one of the things is, there'll be obviously some peaceful demonstrations. But I think if there's no, pullback of the bill or repealing of the bill or killing the bills, I think things will just elevate slowly throughout the summer.
To go along the river.
Raymond Katakwapa is from Attawapiskat First Nation. He told the crowd the Anishinaabe Aski Nation Youth Council is starting a movement with youth across the country to make change.
Not be the same as I Don't Know More, KI6, 1492 and back. This will be different and real change will be made. Because we're not only building on top of what our predecessors have built for us, but we're going to the moon this time. And I believe in this generation.
Today,
according to the people here, actions like this will continue throughout Ontario and the rest of the country. Annette Francis, APTN National News, Ottawa.
The 2025 G7 is nearly over in Kananaskis. As talks wrap up, a number of policies were addressed behind closed doors, which has left many following the summit with questions. Video journalist Rachel May is at the Media Centre for the G7 in Banff to give us a wrap-up on what's happened. Rachel, thanks for being with us. Can you give us an update on what has happened so far at the G7?
So yesterday, U.S. President Donald Trump left the G7, while this morning Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky came to the G7. Also arriving today was NATO's Secretary General. He spoke briefly today about the summit that NATO is having in the Netherlands next week. Earlier this afternoon, Prime Minister Mark Carney sat down with all nations in the G7, as well as the additionally invited nations, and spoke briefly about sustainable development, as well as Canada being a partner to everyone who is currently at the table.
Any word on what people have been saying about the departure of Donald Trump last night?
So last night, Donald Trump did leave, and it was reported that he left because of the conflict in the Middle East. Ukrainian media are saying that's not the case. They're saying that he simply did not want to meet with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and that he didn't feel like talking about the Russia-Ukraine conflict.
Have there been any word on discussions that could take place between Indigenous leaders and members of the G7?
So on Sunday, Treaty 7 chiefs welcomed and met with Prime Minister Mark Carney on Sunday for what was originally scheduled to be a 30-minute meeting. It went to 40 minutes, signaling that talks must have went well. There's no way of knowing what happened in that closed-door meeting, but one of the likely topics is preventing the separation of Alberta from Canada.
As you mentioned, the G7 brought in Australia, Brazil, India, South Africa, South Korea, and Mexico on top of the 7 nations represented. Has there been any talks about what's happening with these additional nations?
I got to speak to members of the media from around the globe, and a lot of people are feeling that same level of frustration, calling for accountability from all governments, saying that these closed-door meetings simply shouldn't have happened that way, and that having this information accessible as it happens is key for transparency in government. Dennis?
Rachel, we'll leave it there. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
A First Nation on the east shore of Lake Winnipeg is seeking compensation from Manitoba Hydro, the province, and Canada for damages they say are causing poor water quality, erosion, flooding, and loss of culture for their community. With the details, here's T.R. Wheatley.
For the water and for our people.
Chief Hartley Everett and the Berens River Band Council say this court case is about standing up for their inherent treaty rights.
Berens River is taking legal action to protect our rights under C-5 and to hold Manitoba, the province of Manitoba, and the government of Canada accountable for the ongoing harms caused by Lake Winnipeg Regulation Project.
On Tuesday morning, they filed a statement of claim against Manitoba Hydro, the province, and Canada. It stems from the Genpeg hydroelectric dam built in 1976 in northern Manitoba. According to the claim, the Genpeg dam was built without an environmental assessment and has caused poor water quality, shoreline erosion, flooding, loss of fish habitat, and cultural livelihood for the people of Berens River. Harrison McKay was a commercial fisherman who's lost his livelihood, spiraling him into a depression.
It screwed up my livelihood, and I've lost lots of money over that. And who's accountable? Government.
He says the debris left in the lake over the years has caused problems not just for the equipment, but to the actual fish coming out of the lake.
There's no eyes, some of them. Some of them have some big things out of just like words, and there's so many of them.
Roland Whiteway was a band counselor for 14 years and says this statement of claim has been a long time coming.
So what we're focusing on is the next 7 generations for our people, the children, our grandchildren, great-grandchildren, the unborn children, to set precedents for them.
He says the water treatment facility in his community has also deteriorated and they now rely on bottled water.
We don't drink water. We don't trust that water.
Other demands in the statement of claim include a remediation process, a full environmental review, and to include Berens River in all decision-making regarding the water going forward. All parties have 20 days to file their own counter-claims. As the matter is now before the courts, the province and Manitoba Hydro say they will not be commenting. The federal government have not responded to APTN News requests. T.R. Wheatley, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
Thanks, TR. To the wildfire situation now, and dozens of wildfires continue to burn across the prairies. But there are some positive developments. Thousands of wildfire evacuees in Manitoba and Saskatchewan are now allowed to return home, and the Saskatchewan fire ban has been lifted. At a press conference on Monday, Steve Roberts of the Saskatchewan Public Safety Agency said higher precipitation allowed them to lift the province-wide fire ban on Monday evening. Saskatchewan Public Safety Minister Tim McLeod said 34 communities are in the process of returning home. 7,000 evacuees from Pimachikamak Cree Nation in northern Manitoba began heading home as of Monday, but the province says the majority of evacuees are still displaced. Meanwhile, in Alberta, there are 55 active wildfires. 20 of those are out of control. According to the most recent updates, there are 20 active wildfires in Manitoba and 13 in Saskatchewan. Well, if you've been impacted by wildfire this season, we'd like to hear from you. Here's how you can continue the conversation. If you have a story you'd like to share, send us an email to news@aptn.ca. You can read and watch our stories by going to our website, aptnnews.ca. You can also find us online on your favorite social media sites, including TikTok, YouTube, LinkedIn, and X. Follow APTN News to join the conversation and see our latest stories. A 2-year search for a missing BC man recently came to a tragic end. We'll hear from the family after the break. Welcome back. A search that took more than 2 years for a missing 24-year-old man from Merritt, British Columbia, came to a sad conclusion recently as RCMP confirmed human remains were found. APTN's Tina House went to speak to the family and brings us this report.
I would do anything to say anything to him again. Whether it was an argument or, one of his bear hugs. But I love him with everything in me.
It's been an incredibly emotional and difficult 2 years for the Mack family after 24-year-old Miguel Mack went missing on February the 27th, 2023. In their words, Their lives felt like a dreamlike state as they began the search for Miguel.
It was a fear of the unknown. I was afraid that I wasn't going to see him again. And then I had hopes that he's just in hiding. The only way I could describe it was it's a living nightmare.
His brother Elijah headed up the massive search, using the family home as a command center. Maps and grids were used to search everywhere, from fields, abandoned buildings, the forest, and the river.
So today, I believe we're gonna head out down to Highway 8 towards the Wyatt Reserve and check the rivers, the hillsides, and yeah, go from there.
Sadly, Elijah had the grim task of dragging the river with the end of a rake attached to a rope, hoping to find his brother. At first, there were a lot of people helping, but as time went on, the family found themselves searching every day, sometimes alone.
There's 2 years where no one was involved, and it was a lot of just mom, and mom, and mom. And I've always told her, I'm like, every time I think you can't get any stronger, you do, because you just show up, right? And you do the things that nobody wants to do. And I just had to mention that because it's important as a mother and as a son, you know, to be able to see that strength and that power of prayer as well.
Miguel's birthday, for example, I cooked his favorite meals and I would bring it out and do offerings. I would bring it downtown to the homeless and talk to them, and I would bring it to the river, and I was always at the river. I would go out in the woods. I would talk to him and plead with him to come home.
But they never found him. And after searching, sadly, the RCMP announced that they found the body of Miguel Mack.
In terms of like where he was found, we're not completely sure of all of that information yet because it's still, you know, in the
process of investigation.
Well, it's still with the Southeast District Major Crimes Unit, so they're still handling the case.
We do know he was found by a member of the public in April, and his death has been ruled a homicide. However, it took time to identify him. The RCMP released this statement. There are people out there with direct and indirect knowledge of Miguel Mack's death, and we are asking those individuals to come forward and contact the police.
You know, over 800 days of searching, I was starting to feel a little worried there. I put over 250,000 kilometers on my truck searching for him, and I was so worried if it broke down I won't have anything. It's a different pain. There was that pain of not knowing, not knowing. And then now it's like, now what? What do I do? How do I get up and not go out and worry about searching? And now there's like a deeper pain of knowing that he's really not on earth with us now, and that's probably one of the hardest ones, is accepting that part.
He was raised in Merritt, BC, along with his 4 brothers by their mom, Marcella Mack. They grew up as a close, tight-knit family, and he was always laughing and joking with his brothers. Miguel, known as Miggy to his friends and family, fell in love with baseball at an early age, something he excelled at all his life. He was also the father of a young boy and a baby girl. And finally, he was honored in his New Hawk tradition, with his family bringing him to their home community in Bella Coola to be buried. Tina House, APTN National News, Merritt.
Thanks, Tina. Still to come here tonight, Veronica Blackhawk will bring us part 2 of her series, Face Value, a look at Indigenous identity in the music industry. Stick around. Welcome back. Time now for our photo of the day. Charlie Wolf snapped this goose, taking a break in downtown Ottawa. Charlie's working as an intern for APTN in Ottawa. Thanks for sharing your photographic talent with us all. If you'd like to be featured as our photo of the day, you can send your pictures to share@aptn.ca. Now let's take a look at tomorrow's weather forecast. Starting on the East Coast, cloudy and 20 in Halifax, showers and 22 in Fredericton. 20 in Kuujjuaq, rain in Nain and a high of 8. 29 with showers in Montreal, rain and 19 in Chibougamau. 24 with rain in Sault Ste. Marie, showers and 29 in Ottawa. 26 in Thunder Bay, 23 with rain in Sioux Lookout. 14 in showers in God's Lake, 16 with rain in Norway House and the Paw. 25 in showers in Winnipeg, 20 with rain in Dauphin. 26 and rain in Regina, showers and 22 in North Battleford. Sunny and 18 in Buffalo Narrows, sun's out and 16 in Uranium City. In northern Alberta, 24 in High Level, 18 with sunny skies in Fort Chip. Showers and 22 in Edmonton, 28 in Lethbridge. 20 with rain in Vancouver and Victoria, showers and 27 in Kamloops. 18 in Prince George and Dease Lake, 19 in Smithers. 27 in Old Crow, showers and 18 in Whitehorse. Sunny and 18 in Yellowknife, 25 under sunny skies in Norman Wells. 0 in Sax Harbor, 16 and sunny in Colville Lake. 8 in Chesterfield, 11 in Baker Lake. +1 with snow in Resolute, 2 and snow in Iqaluit. Part 2 of Veronica Blackhawk's series Face Value continues tonight with Accidentally Indigenous. This musician was called out in 2024 for their claim of ties to the Mi'kmaq community. The Toronto-based artist grew up taking their family's version of their lineage at face value. As Veronica Blackhawk explains, now they've traced their roots and their entire outlook has changed.
The missing are our matriarchs, our queens, our kin, our givers of life. We owe them answers, and we owe them action.
Identity, lineage, and kinship has always been at the center of Cody Bull's music, a reference built into their band name, Crownlands. Growing up, Cody was told they were Mi'kmaq and French. It wasn't until recently they learned they were neither.
As a kid, you look to your dad or your parents and you kind of take it at face value. And I saw my dad, he's got really dark skin and he looks very Indigenous.
In 2023, Crownlands was included in a campaign to expose Indigenous identity fraud. Cody took a DNA test and hired a genealogist with access to Mi'kmaq tribal archives.
I wanted to know the history of my family. It felt like a giant question mark. It was something that I just accepted as undisputable truth.
The Toronto musician grew up in Roseneath, Ontario, spending time in the nearby Alderville First Nation. Their family was accepted into the community and mentored by an elder.
I was like, well, we're Mi'kmaq. That's like on the other side of Canada. I don't think I can go there, and he's like, oh, well, I'll teach you. And he took me out to harvest wild rice. And I did all sorts of beautiful things. I went hunting with him.
Once DNA results revealed no connection to the Mi'kmaq, Cody set the record straight over social media. They also reached out to Millbrook First Nation.
I penned a letter apologizing for not vetting my claims and being like, listen, I understand, this is horrible what I did, and I'm so sorry for claiming this without vetting my connections first. But I still believe in what is right, and I stand up for injustice, and I hope that you accept this apology. I penned a letter of apology, and they accepted it. And it meant the world,
Crownlands has toured Canada, opening for big names like Kiss, Jack White, and Greta Van Fleet. In 2021, before they knew the DNA results, they accepted a Juno Award for Breakthrough Artist of the Year
and bringing Indigenous issues to the forefront.
We want to take this moment to talk about how every Canadian residential school should be thoroughly investigated. The families of those departed all deserve closure. People are living in abhorrent conditions in this nation, and there's a lot more to talk about here.
Cody hopes others facing similar questions around identity can learn from their story.
I'm trying to heal wounds that I created in a community that I didn't mean to create. Be honest and be brave, because no matter what somebody tells you, all you can tell them is your experience and what actually happened.
Well, they plan to continue releasing music under the name Crown Lands and advocating for Indigenous issues. Indigenous music professionals suggest a new approach to ensure community claims are vetted before access to Indigenous funding, spaces, and opportunities are provided. Tune in throughout the week to learn more about these concerns and the complexities of Indigenous identity in the music scene on Face Value. Veronica Blackhawk, APTN National News.
Thanks, Veronica. Veronica will have part 3 of Face Value tomorrow when she speaks with Iskway. And if you missed part 1, you can find that and much more over on our website, aptnnews.ca, or our APTN News YouTube page. We're all out of time for your APTN National News for this Tuesday, June 17th. I'm Dennis Ward. Marcy McGuitch, thanks for being with us. Stick around, an encore presentation of Face to Face is up next. Go Oilers! Have a great night.